Sound check. Check one, check two.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
Dan, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. It is so good to have you on the show. We were talking prior to hitting go, and we were recognizing that it has been many years since we were in the same room together. 2015, where we had dinner on the night, the final night of the conference, right in
That's
Hobart.
correct. Yeah, that was 10 years ago. A
Wow.
lot, a lot has happened since then.
You were newly married, no
hmm
kids. I think
That's correct.
were you new at WAAPA at the time?
I started working at WAAPA in 2012, so it was fairly new.
Fairly new,
Yeah,
but
so
you're an old hat at marriage. You've got a couple of lovely daughters,
that's right.
and you're still still happily married.
Yes, it's as you know, it's one of the most challenging times of your life when you have young children. We've got a 4.5-year-old and a 10-month-old. So you're at the opposite end of that at the moment. I know
We are at the
that
opposite end. Yep.
it's
Yeah.
wonderful as well. Very rewarding, as you know.
Yes, they're for those who are able to travel the journey of having children. It is wonderful. But it does have its challenges.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
it does have its challenges. Matt, I'm so pleased that you've been able to come on today because I think it's probably been a little while since I've had an expert on to talk about the subject of belt. Um, and I remember Tracy Bourne. Do you know Tracy?
Yeah, yeah.
Tracy did her PhD looking at belt and kind of, I don't know, you probably have read her dissertation on
I
it.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. And was it 12 leading experts she interviewed or something around that number? And she asked each of them for a definition of belt.
Mm.
And she famously got 12 different answers back defining what belt is, and so we have to acknowledge that from the get-go. I wonder whether you might actually, probably before you define belt through your lens, I wonder whether you might tell us a bit more about, because you're, as we kind of intimated before, you're at WAAPA, Western
Mhm.
Australian Academy of Performing Arts. Is that right? Did I just say that
That's
right?
correct.
Hey,
Absolutely perfect. Well
that's
done.
that's a win. Um, Tell us a bit more about what you do there, and then we can jump into talking about defining belt.
Sure. So as I said, I started teaching here in 2012, just as a casual vocal teacher, and I moved into a full-time role in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, I guess, back then would be known as the head of contemporary voice, which is popular music. And now I'm actually the coordinator of contemporary music, so all of the entire course. So that includes singers, drummers, keyboard players, guitarists, bass players, the rhythm section, and vocalists, basically in a Bachelor of Music course. So
Wow.
that's what I do currently. We
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of students. It's an amazing course, incredible talent that comes through the course. Very, very grateful to be
Yeah.
working with. Yeah.
And for those
So
people who don't know Australia, WAAPA is one of the most highly regarded musical educational places in the country. Um, Became really well known for its music theatre courses,
yeah,
but has really, etched out a place in the musical education landscape within Australia. It's
yeah,
highly
absolutely.
respected.
I
Yeah.
think probably very famous for having trained Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
in music theatre. But yeah, we have a half of WAAPA is actually music. So contemporary, jazz, classical, and composition, we make up the music component of WAAPA. So you can
Yeah.
come and study that. And that's literally half of WAAPA. It's a very, very big department. So, but yeah, very famous for musical theatre training.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very famous.
Yeah.
So let's turn our attention to your PhD expertise, belt.
Mm-hmm.
How do you define belt? And if you can then take it a step further to say, how would you then further clarify the idea of R&B and soul belt?
It's a great question, and I think like what you alluded to with, the 12 different responses, it's probably a very heated debate amongst many
Yeah.
singing teachers and singers. Big reason why I wanted to undertake this study, if I'm honest, it was quite confusing. I found the what was out there was confusing as a practitioner, but also as somebody who wanted to deliver to students and give them the best setup. So many of my students that were coming through WAAPA were inspired by the great singers that could really belt. And for me, that means powerful singing in high pitch at its very, very core fundamental type of basic definition. And when I think of belt in an R&B context, I think of it, I like to reference artists more than anything. People like Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, Mariah Carey, these kinds of big, powerful voices, in my opinion, taking their chest voice higher than I guess what you might describe as more of a mix type sound. So that would be at the core and basic definition, high, powerful chest voice singing.
I'm actually really tickled to hear you define it like that, because that is literally how I define it. The only difference is I don't tend to use the label chest voice. I
Yes.
tend to model that differently, but that's exactly how I describe it, because I think in the world of vocal pedagogy, there have become all of these little nuances in we've got soft belt and I find it kind of it almost muddy for me. That muddies the water a little bit. I want to hold on to the term to hold clarity around the term. What do you think about that?
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. It's well, I mean, as a singing teacher, it's so confusing for the student to
Yes.
have so many different ways to describe one thing.
Yeah.
And even the word chest voice, I totally understand what you're saying there too. It's just a term that I've used because it just seems so universally known.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, it's at the core of it, it is just singing higher in your chest voice.
Yeah.
And powerfully. And I think that when I think of, the major reason why I undertook this was because so many of my students wanted to replicate that type of sound. And I needed to find out, I mean, I knew I was doing it all the time. I was gigging 4 to 5 nights a week in this type of style. And I knew that I was doing it sustainably because I've never had a vocal health issue.
Yes.
And I knew, obviously through my own training and whatnot, that it was achievable.
Yes.
And I just wanted to formalize that.
Yeah.
By doing the research.
You ultimately directed your research, and you reminded me that I participated. I've forgotten that I participated in. Did you send out a questionnaire? Remind me.
Yeah. So. Yes, Dan did participate in my PhD research, which was fantastic. it was a very long time ago. I do not blame you for not remembering that.
Well, I think
So
when
basically,
you like you would know when ones like you and I, we've been around the traps a little while. You do participate in quite a few of these
yeah,
questionnaires and surveys, and anyway,
you lose track
you
of
do
what
lose
you've
track.
done.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I initially I actually had started out in a master's, doing a master's rather than a PhD, and not a lot was really written about the vocal characteristics of R&B soul singing.
yeah,
It was, I guess, a new style of singing that hadn't been, I guess, recognized so much in academic writing.
yeah.
So I found, some major quotations that had been published, and basically I tested them with you guys, with my participants, and through a survey, a listening survey.
Oh,
I
okay.
really wanted to
Was it?
find out. Is it all coming back to you now?
No.
Um, I really wanted to find out if, well, I knew that belt was a major part of
Yeah,
R&B singing, and I knew that that's what I wanted to focus on. But I wanted to kind of find out all the characteristics of R&B singing, and what it meant to be an R&B singer from a vocal characteristic point of view,
yeah,
and then to focus on belt.
yeah.
So what I tested was three quotes that I found, and then thankfully was able to kind of fill the gaps with all of the amazing knowledge that I got from all the participants in creating, I guess, a more definitive list of vocal characteristics for R&B soul singing. And I guess, once my attention turned to belting, a major reason was because most of the research and published work is in music theatre around that vocal quality, not in an R&B soul style. And for me, they always sounded different.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of where my attention pointed towards after I did that survey that you would have completed.
Neebe, I don't. I just hope I said something that made any sense. In
You
the
said
survey,
great stuff,
did
don't
I?
worry.
You have to say that because you're on my live show. The Neebe's asked a question, and this I want to use Neebe's question to kind of focus our conversation here. Is there belting done in theatrical stage shows, plays, etc.? Is that called belting? And I want to kind of allow you to sort of answer that, and then draw what is the difference between that kind of belting, if there is any
Yep.
difference in your view, compared to R&B and soul belting.
For sure. I mean, the term belting really lived in music theatre. So in the theatre, that's kind of where that term, I guess, came from.
Yeah,
So to answer your question, yes, that is totally a vocal quality that lives in theatre stage shows all the time. And famously, somebody like Idina Menzel really took that to the next level in Wicked and forced everyone to have to sing crazy high in belt from there on in.
and it's only getting higher, isn't it? Really?
It's insane.
Yeah, it is insane.
But the vocal quality of belting, I mean, it's been around forever. And so many people in R&B soul have been doing it since the 50s and 60s up until now, and have been doing it sustainably forever. The difference for me, I mean, this actually was born out of my research as well. It was one of my I dived into a kind of a deep interview process after the surveys with five people from around the world. And one of my questions I put to them is there a difference between musical theatre belt and an R&B soul belt? I mean, in my head, I knew there was, because
Yes.
you can hear it.
Yeah.
If you have Aretha Franklin belt the same note as Idina Menzel, it's different. It sounds different.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know what that was. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's the tone. It's It's the actual roundness and richness of the tone that an R&B soul singer gets when they belt the same note that a music theatre singer would belt.
Which is going to be, music theatre is going to be more twangy, more bright, more narrow, yeah?
Yeah, and which is how kind of belt has been defined
Yeah.
forever.
Yes.
And I guess also taught, in a big way is that, the higher larynx position and
Yeah.
the I guess the more narrow pharynx and that really bright, edgy tone.
Yeah.
But then you do listen to people like Whitney Houston belt, and there is of course brightness and twanginess there, but it's got a richness and fullness to the tone. So for me that's different.
Yeah.
Equally they're the same vocal quality. It's still high chest voice
Yes.
singing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned the word power a little earlier. If we start thinking about the fact that many people who are watching the show live and the hundreds who will watch the show later, they'll be thinking, okay, that's all well and good for, Whitney and Aretha. How does a singer go about learning to balance that power? Because the voice is under increased load when belting. Like, how do we manage that?
Well, I think that you need to understand that belting and any type of this sort of singing is physical. It's not just from your vocal cords. And the singers that I put through the listening survey, so those singers that I mentioned, they all are born out of the gospel church. So singing for them has always been an entire body experience.
Yeah.
It's never from the neck up. I think, particularly I've noticed in my studio, I'm not sure how you feel, Dan, but, there's lots of singers that will come through that do just sing from the neck up. And that's kind of a culture for us in Australia, I think. It's so different when you think of somebody like Whitney or Aretha. They were singing in church from, basically since they were born, and
Yes.
singing is with your whole body.
Yes.
It's not just from your vocal cords.
Yes.
Um,
100%.
so
Yeah.
when you talk about power, to me, that comes from, air, body, voice, resonance. These are kinds of like the four pillars that I would say come
Yes.
from kind of make up what equals a powerful and sustainable belt.
Yes.
Because you cannot sing those notes without involving your body.
Yeah. Yeah. You do have to take that holistic approach. But I wonder whether it could be argued, and in fact, I will put my hand up and say I would argue that there isn't any form of singing that you can do that isn't or shouldn't be approached as a whole body
Absolutely,
experience.
yeah.
I think the heightened energy of contemporary belt, if I can use that to be a little bit of a broader term, is certainly requires that, and you're going to feel the physicality of it a little bit more than you would perhaps if you were singing folk. But all forms of singing do require that, don't they?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I think whatever type of singing you are doing, it's born out of an emotional expression or a reaction.
Yeah.
And I think the best singers in the world do that so well that it's just completely natural.
Yes.
Whitney is never thinking about
natural.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a natural response that their voice just works because their body is working with it and not against it. And Whitney is probably the perfect example of somebody who could wrap a word in emotion and deliver such expression, and her voice would follow that.
I'm going to talk to the elephant in the room, because there'll be people that will be watching this and going, but. So I'm going to allow you to respond to the but. Ones
Yeah.
like Whitney, Mariah,
Mhm.
have had documented vocal health issues.
Mhm.
Um, how do we reconcile the recognition that those same voices that are have had periods of huge vocal output?
Mhm.
How do we reconcile that against what we've also observed as them having periods of vocal distress?
Yeah, it's a great question, and they're not alone. I mean, no one in the world. I mean, even a technically brilliant opera singer is under huge load as
Yep.
well. No one's void of that.
No.
I don't think. Those two are particularly interesting because obviously there was for Whitney a huge personal
Yeah.
issue that
Yeah.
went along with that in terms of addiction and smoking and whatnot, which
Yes.
really contributed to her
Yeah.
vocal decline. I mean, I can't really think of another decline from Grace that is larger
Yeah.
than Whitney Houston, from where she was to where it unfortunately and tragically ended. Um, and Mariah Carey, similarly in a different manner. I mean, I have seen quite a bit of research about her from her voice doctor about her voice, which is a unique setup on her vocal folds, is that she actually has nodules and has had them since she was a little girl. And basically, her voice is temperamental and has learnt to sing around them. And on good days when they're not so big, she's good. But on other days, she's not. So,
And I,
I
I
mean, I
would
can't,
argue more recently she's been more often not good than good.
I would agree with that. And I mean, it's hard. She's also in her late 50s
Yeah.
and the voice changes. And
Yes.
I think when you hit when you think of those two, they really raised the bar in terms of
Yes.
what it meant to sing with range. I
Yeah.
mean, there hadn't really been. I mean, apart from Aretha, there really had not been Aretha and Patti LaBelle, and those,
Yeah.
they brought it to a real popular context,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
the emulation. I mean, you've seen it all through the TV shows, American
Yeah.
Idol, and through to The
Yeah.
Voice, and
Yeah.
basically they are all trying to be those two
Yeah.
types of singers,
Yes.
and taking something to that kind of level and then trying to sustain that
Sustaining it.
is
And the
is
the
really
the amount of vocal dose too. We have to recognize that those voices were doing that a lot,
yeah
at their height.
yeah
Yeah.
relentless.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
we often when I'm talking with students and teaching belt, a big part of it that I there are two major factors that I will talk about in the production of belt, and I wonder if you could unpack these two factors with us. I talk about what the breath pressure, the phonatory threshold pressure, is doing, and and also the resonance strategy around it. Can you unpack for us both of those and your approach when teaching belt?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, those two things are probably the most important, in my opinion, when you want to belt.
Yeah.
Um, so much, I guess, the word power,
Mm,
that I think for some people, for most people, starts from them gushing the air,
yeah.
pushing the air out to make something louder.
Yes.
Um, and that's I guess, a natural response because you hear something and you go, well, that's loud, and I'm going to try and make it loud,
Yes.
by using, the air to make it loud. So that kind of subglottic pressure you're talking about, a lot of the times it's just directly under the larynx and pops through
Yep.
really easily, through the vocal cords, and causes a lot of,
Whooshka.
I guess, yeah, and a lot a lot of tension, and you can't really resonate properly
No.
after that.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, that resistance against the air pressure is against the air coming out is really important, I think. And I find a lot of students when they begin learning how to belt, it comes from them, I guess, just using the air in a really unmanageable way and over breathing,
Yes.
using too much
Yeah.
air in
Yes.
the tone. So I think like, of course, we're human beings. We all know how to breathe, but I think practicing the technique behind it and how much air
Yeah.
you need to actually take in, as opposed to
Yeah.
taking in the world's load of air to just sing
Yeah.
one note, it can really change things for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And yeah, and then the resonance from there, I always think of, for me, especially I mean, if I'm going to hark back to kind of the research I did actually scan singers singing. And so I was able to get kind of a more definitive look at what's happening at a physiological level. These are singers that are all very sustainable, have been doing it for many years, no vocal health issues at all. And it was interesting to me because the research had said a smaller pharynx, a higher larynx and whatnot, and really that was the opposite of what I found,
Interesting.
actually. More of a neutral larynx, a longer and more wider pharynx. That to me creates much better resonance and ability to sing through all, and to give yourself that kind of like bottom end in your voice that I was talking about, like the warmth in the tone
Yeah.
from the R&B singers, which is so different to the music theatre singers.
So different. And that probably is one of the key differences, isn't it? The fact that you're going to get a wider pharyngeal space
Yeah.
than that narrowing that we talk about, that heightened larynx.
Yeah.
Unpack the resonance differences. Like, what are you still seeing? Like a peak in to get really nerdy, around the 3.2 kilohertz area. Like, were you looking
Still
at
seeing
overtones and
that, like
stuff?
well, another part of the research was that I actually did an acoustic study as well.
Cool.
And I mean, I did it kind of on the harmonic series. So within that, the second harmonic was the most present rather than the fundamental
Yes.
in all of the singers. So you are definitely seeing that boost in the brighter energy
Yeah.
in the tone. But yeah, I mean, the resonance quality, if we're keeping the larynx in a more neutral position and the pharynx is wider and longer, you're going to hit all of those lower partials in your, basically EQing your voice
Yeah.
to get kind of a more warm tone.
Yes.
And so the sound travels through the lower end of the wider pharynx, which creates the lower frequencies, then in through the mouth and out through the mask and the brighter frequencies. So you get a more full spectrum tone.
And I wonder whether, and I'm just unpacking this in my head as you're talking about that, I wonder whether that, because if you think about those lower frequencies as having, in one sense, more resonance presence, if you will, that in and of itself gives body, which then, in a different way to the music theatre belt, allows you to kind of back off a little even further. Does it?
Yeah. Well, I think so. I would agree with you. I mean, I haven't actually tested that.
Sure.
Like, I would love to eventually get into that kind of like,
Yeah.
testing people, like adjusting people's setups and
Yeah.
and seeing what the difference would be. But I would agree with that, because
Yeah.
you don't have to work hard
You
for the
just don't have-
power.
because the power's built into the resonant, into the lower harmonics,
That's it,
right?
yeah. Like the biggest part of, one of the biggest things that I'll always say is, air doesn't equal volume. The volume comes from your resonance. You have
Yes.
to play around with how you can change that so
Yes.
that it's easier for you.
Yeah. The way I
Yeah.
often set it up when I first start teaching belt with a student is I will refer to what their body naturally wants to do. I always use that term very loosely. But most untrained singers will want to employ a yell function. High breath pressure, very broad, like there's forget the idea of resonance. It's just noise,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
got this brute force behind it. Whereas belt is almost has got the opposite factors going on. Yeah. Wow,
And
interesting.
interestingly, though, like it's for me, like when you say the word yell, I mean, ultimately they're the same vocal quality, that can actually, I know it sounds so unsinger teachery, that's not even a word of me to say that.
We'll roll with it.
But it can actually help people step forward into it if they can access it a little bit,
Sure.
so that they actually understand, oh, that is the same vocal quality. Now we can refine it and work on the technique of it.
Well, that's an interesting take.
Yeah, because I think so many people will default to the next register
Yeah.
when they're attempting, and there's no way in the world that they could ever extend their chest voice a little bit higher. So sometimes if they're struggling with that, that can be a way in,
Yes.
but it's obviously a way to do it forever.
We talked a little bit before about Mariah and Whitney, and I think of ones like Celine, who I always put Celine's my favorite of the three. Who would be your favorite go-to kind of belters of the modern era?
Oh, of the modern era.
Of the modern era.
That is a great question.
That was a question without notice, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, any kind of question about your favorite.
I know.
Is so challenging for
is.
me. Well, I think that I think Bruno Mars is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think that his ability to sing through the higher chest range is just pretty much unmatched in the modern era. Yeah. My favorite singer of all time is Donny Hathaway.
Okay.
Who probably for me is just Donny. Yeah, if I could listen to one voice forever, it would be Donny. If I had to listen to one person's music forever, it would be Stevie Wonder.
Interesting. I'd probably go
not modern though. I know that.
No. Yeah, exactly. I'd go to Sting. Would probably be my go-to of the same era, the same ilk.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because even when you start thinking about the modern belters, in the context of the conversation, nearly everyone that I start to think about are simply a modern emulation of some of the classic belters that we've been talking about. And Aretha is kind of your go-to gal, right? She was everything.
Yeah, she made that kind of famous.
She did, didn't she?
In that style, yeah. So it's hard to kind of not, I guess, reference her before anyone.
Yeah. I mean, recognizing, we in talking about the Arethas, the Whitneys, the Mariahs, there is, I think I personally approach singing recognizing both nature and nurture, in so much as I 110% believe in a religious way that anyone can learn to sing. Anyone can be nurtured in the process of learning to sing. Mm-hmm. I equally recognize that some people, their DNA is set up to do it better than others. That can't be disputed. I don't think. And I'm happily reconciled to the two. I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
If someone, recognizing that none of us are Aretha, and physically none of us are Aretha or Bruno Mars, how do we safely approach the concept of belt with our own DNA, and I suspect we're going to come back to the breath and the resonance thing. But what's the road in for you? What do you do with students?
Well, I think that, yeah, I totally agree with you. It's, there's a reason that people like Aretha and Whitney and Mariah, they're all very, I guess, special in what they've delivered to the world. Um, and yeah, there's a certain natural propensity to be able to do that,
Yeah.
DNA, genes, and whatnot.
Yes.
I agree. There's going to be a certain level that everyone can get to. Um, in terms of teaching belt within your own setup, I think that everyone is different, and even down to the bone structure. You think about the natural propensity you might have for more narrow vowels, or more wide vowels. Everyone is totally different because of their structure. Um, and so you have to teach to what is in front of you. You have to teach to what the student is going to require. And everyone is going to be slightly different from each other. So I think that for me, it's working within their range. Change the key, you know,
Yes.
get them
Yes.
into a range that is going to allow them to actually move forward.
Yeah.
It's it's not about being Aretha in lesson number one.
Yeah.
In fact, it may never be about being Aretha, but it's about, I guess, adjusting and becoming the best version of yourself.
Yes.
And if that means it's a minor third lower than what Aretha sang, that's okay. You've What you may see is that you've actually increased your range by, 5 notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a huge step forward to me. So I see that as success,
Mm.
not as we have to sing Chain of Fools in C. It's not that just because Aretha did it, like that suits her voice,
Yeah.
and everyone's different. And there's a reason that those three singers, whilst they have similarities in what they deliver, they're all unique.
Yeah.
And I think they would all struggle to sing each other's songs. It wouldn't be right. So it's kind of,
Oh,
you've got to,
I love that thought. What a great.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I just want to go back over that. I've never heard anyone say that. That's cool.
Well, I mean, there's a reason they're so defining,
Yes.
and you hear their music and you hear their songs. Imagine if they had to sing each other's songs. It
I
just wouldn't
love
be.
that.
So
Matt,
that's like
that's the gem of today, right there. I mean, you've been awesome, but seriously, the idea of getting Whitney to sing Aretha, or Aretha to sing Mariah, or
Yeah.
it wouldn't sound right.
No, it doesn't. And that's why they're so unique in what they do, despite having such similarities.
And yet, what do we expect ourselves to do all the time?
Copy them.
Sing
It
Aretha, sing Whitney,
yeah.
sing.
You have to find your own
Ah,
identity. And I think in contemporary singing, that is such a large part of what
yeah,
makes a great singer, is the identity that they can bring and the uniqueness and distinctness that they bring. Whether it's in R&B or folk or country or rock or whatever,
yeah,
it's it's all about finding something that is identifiable.
yeah,
And I think that we should nurture that as
yeah,
teachers.
100%.
We shouldn't expect that they have to sing it within the exact same range as the
Yes.
original singer, because that actually doesn't. I mean, it might help them get to a certain range, but it may not be performable,
Yeah.
and it may, you want to change the key so that it feels like it's reachable for them,
Yeah.
and that they have extended themselves and have brought their own identity to it.
I wonder whether you, as we come towards the end of today's chat, do you have a relatively universal exercise that you can leave us with, like an activity or a singing exercise that people can walk away and play with in this space?
Sure. I mean, I go through a fairly foundational step-by-step process to get, I guess, myself into a position where I feel like I can sing a high C over and over again because I have to.
Mm-hmm.
But I find one of the biggest pillars of my practice and for my students that are really struggling, it all leads back to tension
Yes.
and muscular tension,
Yes.
uh, which is induced by air and too much force and whatnot, or not singing with your whole body. So I find that the for me the number one thing is going to be the massage to get rid of the muscle tension that you carry around with yourself every day. You speak a lot more than you do sing, no matter what you do during the day. So generally, as we get older and older, we pick up more habits and we get tenser and tenser throughout the day. So if I've been teaching for 7 hours and then I'm going to a rehearsal and then or a gig or something like that, the biggest part of my warm up is going to be the massage, which will be the massage in through here, through the larynx, the extrinsic laryngeal muscle, the tongue root, and the cervical spine to get myself at neutral, basically. And then I'll work through, breathing more than anything, getting the air and connected to the middle of our body
Yeah.
and just making sure that we're, for me, not keeping the air up in my
Yeah.
throat. So I mean they're not like making much noise at that point, but they're the most important things to make noise for me.
I always talk about it as our body wants to gather tension, but it doesn't so quickly want to release tension. And
No.
so we have to be very proactive in that sense of release, and those manipulations that you were just talking about are such a key factor. Yeah, great.
Yeah. I think of, like it's so important for us as singers that, you may have a great singing teacher who can help you with all of that stuff. But, if you think of like an elite athlete, they have kind of a team of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm totally into vocal physio. I think that it's a huge part of what we do if we want to be,
Yeah.
a professional
Yeah.
gigging singer or
Yeah.
in professional productions. It's not just about the technique, it's about how to alleviate all the tension in your body that comes along with just daily life.
I watch a lot. My community here at Voice Essentials know I watch a lot of sport, and I love watching rugby league. And you'll always see at halftime, and after the game, and before the game, there'll always be a physiotherapist working on the big muscle groups of the players, getting rid of that
Absolutely.
tension, and tension is the enemy of physical activity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's, ultimately what singing is. It's a physical
it's a
activity.
physical activity, 100%.
Yeah.
Matt, we're pretty much out of time. Would you believe? I'm going to go across to, where's this screen? I want to go. Oh, hang on a second. That's not the screen I want. I want to go across to this screen because we had these questions up. If your belt had personality, what would it be? Which one of those are you going to choose? The fiery powerhouse?
myself?
Yeah, the smooth or soulful crooner, the electric high note surfer, or the deep emotional storyteller?
I think for me, I'm probably the smooth and soulful crooner.
Are you? Okay.
I would think. Yeah.
Well, 31% are with you on that.
Excellent.
So 38%. Here, I'll end it, and you'll be able to see. I'm ending it, everyone. Here we go. Here it comes. It'll come up on the screen. Ta-da! So we got 38% smooth and soulful. Deep emotional storyteller. I must admit, I tend to be. Now, which one do I choose? The fiery powerhouse or the electric high note surfer?
I think you sing pretty high, don't you?
I do sing pretty high, yeah. So I think I'm probably the electric high note surfer. Is probably where I land. Yeah.
Totally.
Look, it's been a lot of fun having you on today. I'm sorry it's taken me since 2015. Well, I wasn't doing these back in 2015, but I've been doing them for a little while, and it's taken me all this time to get you onto the show. And
No,
and
thank
having
you so
sat
much.
with you having sat with you for the last hour, I'm wondering why it's taken me, because I've really enjoyed our chat.
Oh, it's been awesome. I've been, I'm a huge fan of yours, Dan,
Oh, thank you, sir.
and I always direct people to if I'm going to direct anyone to some online videos, I'm directing them to Dr. Dan. So
champion.
no, I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a great hour.
Can you leave us with any closing thoughts of wisdom?
Ooh, closing thoughts of wisdom.
I know you've got something somewhere.
Do I? I'm not sure.
I'm sure.
No.
I'm sure you do.
I guess I would probably say if you're going to embark on any type of singing journey, that you find somebody that you really click with to help you on this journey, to enable and encourage you to fulfill your potential and tailor what you need to your own personal needs. I think there's so many amazing teachers. Unfortunately, there's so many not so amazing teachers, but I think you need to find the right one for
The right
you
fit,
to help you on your journey. It can take a while, and I think that's important, is to have patience with what you're trying to achieve. Singing is never going to be a one-trick fix.
Yes.
It takes time and dedication, and I think that if you can master your psychology around that, then you'll have a way better result than expecting something to change within a minute. We can help with little things, but ultimately you need to absorb a skill.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my advice.
Awesome advice. Awesome advice. Matt, thank you so much for coming on today and generously spending an hour with us.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back here. I just keep picking great people to come on the show. Another one. I mean, it was so good to have Matt join us, and he left us with some really great comments at the end. Do you know what my takeaway today is? You'd never expect Whitney to sing, someone else's material. It's so simple yet so powerful. I hope you've got plenty of takeaways from today, and the area of belt it can be a little bit of a difficult topic to unpack, simply because, to start with, just simply because of the terminology and the language around it, and that can be a bit confusing for people. But it's so good to have someone like Matt come on the show and really form clarity. That's when you know you're listening to an expert. They make the very complex sound very simple, and I think that's what Matthew did for us today. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. We are going to be back next week. As you know, we'll be at this stage, I think it's going to be a Q&A, which I was so hoping we could do the analysis, and we came so close with Mackenzie Kate's video, but yeah, I explained last week the format of video was just not going to work, which is unfortunate, but anywho, we will seek to do the vocal analysis again in the future. Come ready with your questions next week, and I will do my humble best to answer them, as we always do. I hope you all have a great week. Please stay safe, sing well. Oh, that didn't come out the right way. I'm supposed to say, I'm Dr. Dan, sing well.